Yeah, hello. I'm sorry to interrupt this cinematic racing intro. It is me, Seb, somehow still allowed to make racing videos. But just a quick one before we start. This episode is going to be a little bit different. We didn't have any official race footage and only a couple onboards really to work with. So not every story that I wanted to tell or that actually happened is here in full. But I've pieced together everything that I could to try and bring this weekend alive as much as possible. I do hope you're enjoying the series and continue to enjoy it. So without further ado, here is episode 6 of Drive to Survive. Drive to Survive.
For 6 episodes, we've followed the battles, the rivalries, and the personalities that make up the classic 2CV Racing Club. But this time, we're telling the story a little differently. Because whilst the championship arrives at Lydden Hill in 2025, the story of 2CV Racing here stretches back decades. These cars may look familiar, but the faces, the liveries, and even the circuits themselves have changed over the years. What hasn't changed is the racing. For generations of drivers, Lydden Hill has been the stage for last lap battles, championship dreams, mechanical heartbreak, and moments that have become part of club folklore. So, before we return to the present day, we're taking a journey through the archives, back through the 2000s, back through the 90s, and all the way back to where it began. Because to understand where 2CV Racing is today, you first have to see how the story started.
Nearer home, 24 lesser-known drivers were also doing their bit to further the claims of a much newer brand of motor racing at a Midlands circuit.
Billed as the slowest racing ever, but still they came from as far north as Glasgow and Surrey in the south. Their common link, a desire to promote the serious claims of 2CV racing. Yesterday's 10-lap race was aimed at testing the interest in this facet of motorsport. Only 2CV saloons with a basic engine can compete, and the aim is to stage a full series and a 24-hour race similar to one held in Belgium recently. Henley and Arden's Darrell Stokes, appropriately driving car number 1, led the way home, even if he wasn't quite able to lower his own track record of a pulsating 65 miles an hour. Somehow, the popular image of 2CVs will never quite be the same again.
The relationship between the classic 2CV Racing Club and Lydden Hill stretches back to the early years of the championship, with generations of drivers racing here long before the club's return in 2024. These images from 2002 to 2005 capture a different era of the championship. The cars were a little bit different, the paddock was a little bit different, but the racing was every bit as close. By the mid-2000s, however, the story at Lydden Hill had come to a pause. The championship would not return for almost 20 years, and at the time, nobody knew these would be among the final 2CV races at Lydden Hill for nearly 2 decades. When the championship returned in 2024, it wasn't just another race weekend, it was the continuation of a story that had been waiting years to be told. After a weekend full of changeable conditions, this is how qualifying shaped the grid for race 1. Brian Heary found pole once again with his teammate Andrew Bull alongside him. Julie Walford finds herself in P3 with Ethan Sparrow in prime position in P4. Due to 3 or 4 cars actually missing more than half of the original qualifying session, which started off almost dry and got progressively wetter, the likes of Jones White, Chris Tovey and Nick Crispin are all out of position, starting 5th, 7th and 11th respectively. Off the start, it was Andrew Bull that took the lead at turn 1. Brian Heery, it seemed, was struggling from the off, and Ethan Sparrow capitalised on this to take P2 through turn 1, as Julie Walford was swallowed up by the fast-starting Martin Ryman, while Seb White made a fair but unremarkable start. Chris Tovey, however, was on a mission, cutting through the pack like a hot knife through butter, making it past the pack and into second place by the hairpin. Seb White, though, had a nothing start, made the second half of his opening lap count, as he too slotted into third behind Bull and Tovey at the hairpin of lap 1. The story of Lydden Hill continues, but today's main character was one Chris Tovey. It was clear from the start that Tovey had more in the bag than anyone else. Winner in race 1 in 2024, it was clear that no matter the car, Chris will make it perform. And it looked like nothing and no one was going to beat him to the line this time. As Chris Tovey settles into the opening stages of this race, he's carrying more than just his own ambitions. This season, he's become part of one of the paddock's most beloved teams, SL Racing, a family-run operation built around Lawrence and George Broadhurst, a team that always seems to bring laughter, optimism and a smile wherever they go. Normally this car is shared by father and son, but with George stepping away from racing in 2025 to focus on life away from the circuit, an opportunity emerged, and Chris Tovey was the man chosen to fill the seat. It's an intriguing partnership, because whilst Lawrence has never been known as one of the championship's outright frontrunners, George had begun to show flashes of real pace before taking his ear away from the sport. For years, there has been a question hanging over this team. Just how quick is this car? Is it capable of fighting at the front? Or has its true potential simply never been fully revealed? With a former champion now behind the wheel, the answers may finally be starting to emerge, because whatever happens today, one thing is certain. This isn't a factory-backed operation or a professional race team. It's a family effort. A car prepared by Lawrence, an engine built by Lawrence, and a team whose enthusiasm for racing is as strong as anyone's in the paddock. Now, with Chris pushing towards the front, they're getting the chance to see exactly what years of hard work can achieve. And right now, they're getting exactly the kind of race they've dreamed about. Chris has put this car at the sharp end of the field, and for SL Racing, every lap spent among the leaders is another statement of what this team is capable of. The challenge, of course, is only just beginning. A long race still lies ahead, with plenty of contenders waiting for their opportunity. But for the moment, Chris Tovey has the lead. And as he heads the field, the story at the front is only part of what's unfolding around this circuit. One mistake, that's all it takes. A missed gear at the hairpin flips Seb White's race upside down. The leaders pull away, and Ethan Sparrow pounces. Season after season, drivers battle to prove they belong at the front. In 2025, Ethan Sparrow has shown he can run with the front runners. Now up to third, he leads a fierce train of cars. Everything is still on the line. The fight is far from finished, and with Seb charging back into contention, the pressure is rising fast. But there is another car Seb White needs to be thinking about. Nick Crispin. Starting down in 11th position, Crispin has been quietly carving his way through the field. The championship runner-up arrived at Lydden Hill trailing Seb by 36 points. A healthy advantage at this stage of the season, but no one can afford to shrink. Every position matters, every point counts, and while Seb is focused on recovering from his mistake, Crispin is doing exactly what title challengers do best: limiting the damage. If Nick can continue his charge forward, Seb's comfortable championship cushion could start to look a little less comfortable by the end of the afternoon. The battle on track is one thing. The battle for the championship is another entirely. Nick Crispin has arrived. Starting all the way back in 11th, the championship contender has wasted no time carving through the field, and now he's right on the rear bumper of Ethan Sparrow. For Crispin, the objective is simple: get past, and get past quickly. Every position gained means valuable championship points, and with Seb White still ahead on the road, Nick cannot afford to lose time. But from Seb's perspective, this is exactly what he wants to see. After recovering from his earlier mistake, Seb has managed to edge away from the battle behind. The longer Ethan Sparrow can keep Nick trapped behind him, the greater the chance Seb has to build a cushion. It's a fascinating dynamic. 3 drivers, 3 different races. Ethan Sparrow is fighting for a podium. Nick Crispin is fighting for a championship, and Seb White is fighting to protect his advantage in both. For now, Ethan holds the key to all of it. While the championship battle unfolds further up the road, another contest is beginning to take shape. From aboard Matthew Hollis's car, we find him locked in combat with Sam Archer. Neither driver is willing to give an inch. Corner after corner, lap after lap, the pair remain inseparable, trading momentum and constantly searching for an advantage. Then, from behind, Simon Turner arrives on the scene, carrying more Swede. Then, from behind, Simon Turner arrives on the scene. Carrying more speed, he sweeps past both Hollis and Archer and breaks free up the road, leaving the pair to continue their fight behind him. What makes races like this so unpredictable is that not every important battle happens at the front. Sometimes it's these relentless midfield fights that end up shaping the story of an entire race. And with neither driver prepared to back down, this duel still has a long way to run. Further up the road, the picture is becoming increasingly frustrating for Andrew Bull. For much of the race, he's done exactly what he needed to do. A good start. Stayed with the leader, avoided mistakes, and kept himself firmly in contention. But as the laps tick by, Chris Tovey continues to edge away. Not by much. A few tenths here, a few tenths there, yet over the course of a race, those small margins become significant. Bull is still pushing, still searching for an answer, but right now he looks like a driver chasing a problem he simply can't solve. The gap isn't exploding, it's just relentlessly growing. And with every lap that passes, Chris Tovey's grip on this race becomes a little stronger. For a while, it looked as though Seb White had done enough. After Nick Crispin finally found a way past Ethan Sparrow, the gap between the championship rivals had grown to a comfortable margin. But comfortable margins have a habit of disappearing. Lap by lap, Crispin began to close, not by seconds, not even by tenths, just a little bit each lap. Enough to keep the pressure building, enough to keep Seb looking in his mirrors. Much like Andrew Bull ahead, Seb was driving as hard as he could, yet despite his best efforts, the gap continued to shrink. Until eventually, Nick arrived. The attack was immediate, the response was equally determined. For an entire lap the pair circulated side by side, neither willing to yield an inch. Seb knew exactly what was at stake. Every position mattered, every point mattered, but eventually, Nick Crispin found a way through. For many drivers, that would have been the end of the fight, not for Seb White. A switch seemed to flick. The championship leader immediately latched onto the back of Crispin's rear bumper, pushing harder than ever as the battle entered its final stages. The fight for third was far from over. And then, everything changed. The battle we saw previously between Matthew Hollis and Sam Archer, a fight that had raged throughout the race, finally reached its conclusion. At the final corner, Archer hit the barriers heavily, bringing out the red flags. The race was stopped immediately, and with insufficient time remaining, that was the end of it. No final attack from White, no chance to reclaim third, no final lap showdown for anyone. Just an abrupt end to a race that still had unfinished business. Nick Crispin would inherit the final podium position, reducing Seb's championship advantage by 5 points. Up front, Chris Tovey secured a long-awaited victory for himself and SL Racing. A race won through pace, persistence, and years of hard work. But unlike most winners, he wouldn't get the chance to experience that final lap and that checkered flag. Instead, the story of race 1 at Lydden Hill would end not with a sprint to the finish, but with a red flag. As the dust settles on race 1, the celebrations extend far beyond the driver who crossed the line first. For Chris Tovey, it's another victory in an already impressive racing career. But for SL Racing, this one feels different. This is a family team built on passion, perseverance, and countless hours spent in the garage. A team that has spent years arriving at race meetings with the same enthusiasm regardless of where they finish. For years, they believed they could compete at the front, and today, they proved it. As the celebrations began, Lawrence could be heard proudly reminding everyone within earshot, "That's my engine. I built that engine." And really, could you blame him? Moments like these are rare. Moments like these are earned. And so from everyone in the paddock, a congratulations to Chris Tovey, Lawrence Broadhurst, George Broadhurst, and the entire SL Racing family on a thoroughly deserved victory. While the SL Racing team celebrate a memorable victory in 2025, the story of 2CV racing at Lydden Hill stretches back much further. More than 3 decades earlier, another grid of brightly coloured Citroën 2CVs lined up on the same Kent circuit. Different drivers, different cars, the same spirit. Before a return for race 2, let's take a trip back to 1991 and revisit one of the earliest chapters in the long relationship between the classic 2CV Racing Club and Lydden Hill.
Can't quite see who it is, in fact. I think we've got David O'Keefe. Yes, we have. David O'Keefe with our onboard camera here this afternoon. So he's good value for money as well as they come down the descent of Ferry Hill through some of the... This is a superb category of motorsport and the one that has been here over the past year at Lydden Hill, and they really do provide us with some absolutely superbly close racing. It's always a very close race. Now, we have had 5 abreast around Cheshunt's Drift before now, and they're on the exit of Paddock Turn. Who's this getting it wrong? Now, look at this. Yes, they don't tip over many times, these cars. I know they may lean over at very, very crazy angles, but they just don't tip over. Unless they're helped, of course, by hitting an object or obstruction on the side of the circuit, which will open in 1993 thanks to the partnership that has been struck between Tom Bissett, the circuit owner, and Tag McLaren International, and that is David O'Keefe who gets it. David O'Keefe puts it on his side, back on his wheels, and somebody gets it all wrong there. Now, who was that? 96 gets it all wrong. That's in fact, is David O'Keefe, and he's carrying. Do you believe this? He is carrying on. The man who has our inboard camera on his 2CV is carrying. Look at the offside front wheel. And there's a replay, in fact, of this particular shunt. It gets it all wrong coming down here, causes all manner of mayhem behind him.
Back in 1991, the racing at Lydden Hill already had everything you'd expect from 2CV competition. Close battles, overtaking in every direction, and more than a few moments that didn't go quite to plan. Cars leaned on each other through the corners, ran side by side into braking zones, and occasionally ran out of circuit altogether. It was chaotic, it was colourful, and it was fiercely competitive. The footage may be over 3 decades old, but the DNA of the racing is instantly recognisable. The only real difference is the cars are a little bit faster now, and they're sitting a little bit lower to the ground. Everything else, it seems, has stayed exactly the same. But race 1 complete, attention now turns to the second contest of the weekend. And if the opening race was defined by dry speed and late drama, race 2 promises something entirely different. A wet qualifying session earlier in the day has completely reshuffled the grid. At the sharp end, it's Seb White who has delivered when it matters most, taking a commanding pole position. Alongside him, a surprise front row entry for Simon Turner, who has clearly found something special in the changeable conditions. Behind them, Andrew Bull lines up in third, still firmly in the hunt after a strong showing in race 1. But further back, there's work to do for Nick Crispin. An incorrect tyre choice in qualifying has left him down in 8th on the grid. A far cry from the championship fight he's very much still a part of. As the cars prepare to head out, the circuit itself tells a different story. What once was soaked for qualifying is now beginning to dry. A racing line is slowly appearing, grip is evolving lap by lap, and that creates one of the most difficult challenges in motorsport. Because for Seb White, the equation is simple. If the rain stays, he controls this race. If it dries, everything changes. Five lights, 3 championship contenders, and 1 run to the first corner. As the lights go out, Seb White suffers another difficult start, and from pole position, he immediately finds himself under pressure as Andrew Bull launches away and attacks into Cheshunt's Drift. But the real story is unfolding further back. Nick Crispin starts 8th and then produces a start that borders on unbelievable. Car after car disappears from view as Crispin slices through the field, finding grip where others can't and momentum where others hesitate. By the time the field reaches Devil's Elbow, he's gone from 8th to the front of the championship battle, and he's not finished yet. As contact from Simon Turner costs Seb White valuable momentum, Crispin closes rapidly on Andrew Bull. Through Devil's Elbow, he positions the car, and up the hill he commits. And before the field reaches the hairpin, Nick Crispin has taken the lead. In the space of a few corners, the championship picture has been turned on its head. Seb White started this race from pole position, and now he's chasing. And with Crispin disappearing up the road, viable championship points are already slipping away. Once the opening chaos settled, race 2 quickly evolved into a split story. A dominant performance at the front and a fierce multi-driver fight just behind. At the head of the field, Nick Crispin was in a league of his own. Starting 8th, he produced a sensational launch off the line, slicing through the pack almost immediately and transforming his race in a matter of corners. From there, it became a controlled drive at the front, calm, clinical, and built on a level of pace no one else could match in those conditions. But the real intrigue was forming behind him. Simon Turner, starting from the front row in second, had every opportunity to lead the charge. And for much of the opening phase, he did exactly that, holding position in third and immediately establishing himself as one of the standout performers of the weekend. If it wasn't for a mistake at turn 1, Simon Turner may well have been able to hold on to that podium position. If there was one driver who defined the fight for the podium, it was Andrew Bull. From the early stages, he found himself running in second place, right in the middle of that lead battle, and eventually under quite some pressure. What followed was a composed defensive drive built on consistency rather than aggression. Lap after lap, Seb White closed in. The pace was there, the intent was clear, but Bull made every attempt at an overtake difficult, placing the car exactly where it needed to be to close off opportunities and force Seb to reset his attack. It wasn't about flashy defence or last-second lunges. It was about control, staying calm under pressure, and making the car as wide as it needed to be without stepping over the limit. Whilst Crispin controlled the race out front, Bull's job was to hold the line behind, and in doing so, protect a result that mattered just as much to his weekend. Every lap Seb spent stuck behind him was another lap the gap to the leader stretched further out of reach. And by the time White even got close to Bull, the opportunity to challenge for victory had pretty much slipped away. Once again, Andrew Bull delivered exactly what his season had been built on. Not domination, not chaos, just points, pressure management, and a podium secured through patience. While the fight at the front was unfolding, some of the most intense racing was happening further down the order. From Richard Hollis's onboard, the race begins with a strong launch off the line. He immediately clears the 20 Podium Motorworks car Robert Dawson and is quickly drawn into the main pack by turn 1. But the chaos ahead is already building. Into the opening corner, Steve Walford is forced wide in a tightly packed 3 abreast battle with Brian Heery and Martin Ryman. With nowhere to go, the trio run side by side through turn 1, compressing the midfield and reshuffling positions in an instant. Behind them, Walford is quick to respond, coming straight back at Ryman as the midfield battle refuses to settle. Every corner becomes another opportunity to attack or defend. Hollis, caught in the middle of it all, finds himself boxed in as the Lion cars come through on his inside, forcing him to lift and lose momentum at exactly the wrong moment. The result is a chain reaction through the pack. Gaps open, close, and open again, and the early progress quickly unravels. Even the number 20 Podium Motorworks entry of Robert Dawson recovers strongly from his early loss to rejoin the fight, setting his sights on the group ahead and what becomes a race-long battle for position. Whilst the leaders shape the headlines, this is where the race is being decided in fragments. One corner, one mistake, one opportunity at a time. Whilst up the road, it seems the song has been sung. As Nick Crispin takes the checkered flag, race 2 comes to a decisive conclusion. A dominant drive from the front seals victory by a comfortable margin, built on that extraordinary opening lap that defined the entire race. Behind him, Andrew Bull once again delivers a composed and disciplined performance in second place. Another defensive masterclass, another podium, and another valuable haul of championship points this weekend. Seb White completes the podium in third. The raw speed was never in question, but once again, the opening stages proved costly, leaving him to recover rather than control the race from the front. It's a reoccurring theme in his season so far. The pace is there to win races, but track position at the start continues to dictate his outcomes. Further back, the midfield remains tightly packed and fiercely contested. with small margins separating a large group of drivers throughout the field. In the championship picture, Crispin's victory closes the gap to just 16 points, tightening the field at the top as the season begins to take shape. For Andrew Bull, even after the setback at Pembrey, the consistency continues to keep him firmly in the hunt, staying close to the leading fight as the season progresses. And despite a more difficult weekend at Linden Hill, Ethan Sparrow remains firmly in the contention for third in the championship, keeping himself within reach as the battles behind the leaders intensifies. As the cars slow and the weekend draws to a close, the championship picture has become ever clearer and ever closer.
You say you don't need me, but I'm the only one you call whenever you're lost. You say you got somewhere to be, but you've been here since yesterday with your phone turned off. Mind's doing all the talking, but have you asked your heart? Sounds like a good place to start. Your feeling seems to be left in the dark. Defeated, lying and screaming, what if you ask your heart? Sounds like a good place to start. Sounds like a